What's up everyone, my name is Amplies and today I'm bringing you my top 5 easy tips to help you improve your sniping in Destiny 2. My goal for this video is no matter what kind of player you are, if you just started trying to snipe or if you've been sniping for a while but just want to hone your skills, you'll be able to get something out of the tips that I'm about to give you. I seriously appreciate you clicking on the video today and let's get right into it. The first tip I have for you is always to have good positioning. We're going to break down positioning into two important factors. The first one being map knowledge and the second one being covers and rotations. Map knowledge might sound very basic and you might even feel like you're super familiar with all the maps. However, it goes a little deeper than just knowing where everything is. There are two options people have when they're trying to kill you if you're sniping. They can either 1, try to snipe you back or use another long range weapon, or 2, they can try to close the distance between you and them so they have the advantage in the fight. When you feel like you're in a spot where you're in a setup and go for a snipe, you need to be aware of every possible place that somebody could push you from and be in an area where you can keep an eye on every single one of those lanes. You want to try to find an angle where you can just focus on one main area and not have to keep an eye on 2 or 3 other lanes. This will make sure if somebody does push you, you'll be ready for it. So when you're practicing positioning, make sure you're constantly thinking of how someone could try to advance on your position and try to find areas that limit the amount of lanes that you have to keep your eyes on. However, if you do get in a sticky situation or you do miss your snipe, what do you do then? This is where I bring you into the second factor of positioning, which is cover and rotations. When choosing where to stop and try to land a kill, not only do you have to be in a good place where it's hard to push, like we just talked about, you have to be in an area where if you feel like you don't have the upper hand anymore, you can get to safety very quickly. You want to be within one slide of cover at all times when you have your sniper out. This will ensure that if you do get caught off guard or you do miss your snipe, it won't cost you your life. Now, I like to usually split the term cover into two different types. There's short-term cover, and then there's rotation lanes. Short-term cover is cover that you would use if you plan on staying in the same area after you are ready to fight again. However, rotation lanes are the cover you would use if you wanted to completely disengage from the fight and get back to a safer spot. I'll give you an example of both. Say I'm right here on Helipad in Javelin 4, and I saw a person up by the divider and I wanted to snipe him. I have two types of cover here that I can use to engage them from. The short-term cover option here is this box where I can peek in and out from and regain my health if needed. However, it is very hard to get away from this position if I need to move. The rotation lane here is this back hallway where I can peek right here from and see them, but if I do make the decision that I need to stop the fight, I can easily get away by rotating all the way back through spawn and finding a new angle to fight them. Usually I try to use rotation lanes as much as I can because it is so important to have a plan if you miss your shot and will definitely help you feel more comfortable going for your kills. If you stay in one spot for too long, the enemy will eventually be able to overrun you and kill you, so it is crucial that you stay one step ahead of them and keep rotating to other areas on the map often. Before we get into the second tip, I just wanted to quickly mention that I do stream live over on Twitch every week, Friday through Monday. So if you do have any questions or topics you'd like me to break down here on YouTube, I'd love to hear about them in chat. You can find the link to my channel in the description below. Alright, we are going to move on to tip number 2 now, which is anticipation. One of the biggest differences between an average sniper and a great sniper is their ability to anticipate what their opponent is going to do before they do it. If you've had some experience with any of the maps, you've probably noticed that there are common places people like to walk through or fight in. You can use this knowledge to your advantage really easily. If you know that most people like to run through a certain hallway or they like to sit behind a certain rock and you see any indication of somebody in that area on radar, you can peek that angle with confidence because you likely know exactly where they are. Next time you're practicing sniping, try this. Every time you see an enemy on radar, before you peek, try to think where they most likely are positioned. You'll probably surprise yourself with how well you are able to predict people and how much this can help your confidence. Another part of anticipation is learning from your opponent in the middle of a game. Everyone has tendencies and certain ways of thinking that form a playstyle. Whether you realize it or not, you often do the same thing over and over again, such as maybe you slide every time you peek, or you like to run to the same spot and snipe every single life. However, this is the case for everyone, and there's little things you can always pick up against any player. The more you can learn about your opponent and how they like to play, the more successful you'll be against them. So if you notice that the person you're playing against slid around a corner the last time you saw them, next time aim a little lower and be ready for them to do it again. Or maybe you notice a sniper go to a spot 2 rounds in a row in trials. If it worked out well for them, odds are they're probably going to do it again. Think of a way you can watch that lane in a safe way like we talked about earlier and be ready for them to peek it again. Not only can you predict people based on what they're doing, you can also predict people based on what you would do in their situation. You already have the knowledge of what a rotation lane is and how people will use them, so let's use the same example we did earlier. Let's say this time you're the person up top here on divider and you're fighting the person in the back hallway. You get them weak and they make the smart decision to run back and spawn and find a new area to fight in. Well, based on your knowledge of how you'd handle the situation, you can anticipate that they're going to be running towards one of these two angles. You can then set up in a spot where you're watching both doorways and wait for them to get a very easy kill when they're not expecting it. Every time you see someone run away from you, try to think where they are most likely trying to get to and ask yourself, is there a way I can get eyes on that spot before they get there? Keeping the pressure on the person you're fighting is a huge part of sniping. Okay, now that you understand how to anticipate your opponent and make adjustments on the fly, let's go over tip number 3, which is radar and sound cues. We touched on radar a little bit earlier, but I believe it deserves its own full explanation because I cannot stress how powerful of a tool it is. We just talked about how gathering information about your opponents is so crucial, and your radar can tell you so much about your opponent before you even fight them. When you're not in a fight, you should be looking at your radar non-stop. You can get a really good idea of where people are on the map from this, and you can determine where you should set up for a snipe. But using your radar doesn't just stop when you find an angle to snipe in. You should be unscoping every few seconds to make sure that 1, you're still safe and somebody isn't pushing you, or 2, the person or people you're trying to kill are still where you thought they were. The biggest mistake I see from people when they're learning how to snipe is they get way too focused and they almost get stuck in their scope trying to land a snipe and they don't see the enemy team move and push them. Like I said earlier, you have to stay one step ahead of your opponent, and quickly identifying what they're trying to do is how you're going to be able to do this. And the final part of this tip is to use your sound cues. You can hear almost everything someone does in Destiny, from footsteps to gunshots, and all of those sounds are just more information that you can gather. Try to pay more attention to the sounds around you, and if you hear a gunshot go off, make the mental note of where you heard a shot come from because there's probably someone over there. If you hear footsteps running towards you, this is definitely a sign that you should probably get out of there fast. Little sound cues like that and your radar give you so much information, and it is so vital to use it to get the upper hand on your enemy. The fourth tip I'm going to give you is to have good weapon balance. Weapon balance is how much you use your sniper versus how much you use your primary weapon, and I'm going to start off by saying this. Your primary weapon is called your primary weapon for a reason. While it might feel really good to land some snipes, it is very important to know when it is in your best interest to switch to your primary. A sniper is a high risk, high reward weapon, so in a lot of situations, it isn't ideal to try to use it. You need to know that whenever you have your sniper out, you are vulnerable. So before you challenge a fight with your sniper out, ask yourself, would I feel more confident and have a better chance of winning this fight with my primary instead? A lot of the times the answer will be yes, and the best place to slide out with your hand cannon or whatever other primary you are using. Usually how I decide what weapon is the best fit for a fight is based on 2 factors. The first factor is the range of the fight, and the second factor is the time I have to fight. If they're close to me, the obvious choice is to use my primary weapon, and if they're far away, you use your sniper. That's simple, right? But if they're in mid-range, both of them are good options. This is where the time you have to fight is what should determine your weapon. Say it's just you and one other enemy and there's no other threat around you. You have tons of time to fight and there's no pressure to end the fight as fast as possible, so I'd use my primary. However, say you're playing quick play or rumble and you know there's another person near you that you might have to fight right after you kill the person in front of you, you don't really have a lot of time to fight. This is where ending the fight really fast with a sniper rifle is very important. You want to try to kill the person in front of you as fast as possible with the sniper so you can turn around and be ready for the next fight before they push you. Always knowing which weapon to have out just comes with experience, and you won't always make the right decision, which is okay. You just have to learn from what you did wrong and try to fix it for the next time it happens. If you're just starting out sniping, always try to default to your primary weapon if you aren't sure, because this will always be the safer option. And this brings us to the final tip of the video, which is to practice and learn. Sniping is a very hard thing to master and can be frustrating to learn. You can't let yourself get worried about it even if you feel like you aren't good at it, because every single person you've ever watched snipe has been exactly where you are right now. The best thing you can do is just practice a ton using these tips and learn from your mistakes. Even today, I am always trying to assess myself and see what I did right in every fight and what I did wrong. This simple tip is the best one I can give you, and you learning about your strengths and weaknesses will be the most beneficial in the long run. So go out there and practice while you keep these tips in mind. Don't get frustrated with yourself, and if you do have any questions, feel free to stop by my Twitch stream. I'd be happy to help you. I hope no matter where you are as a sniper, you got something out of this video, and I genuinely appreciate you watching it all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a like if you want more content just like this. Have a great day, and I hope to see you back here for the next video.